There is something profound happening in the energetic space around you today. The air itself feels thick with emotion, heavy with the weight of unspoken words and unexpressed feelings. Your person is moving through their days carrying a burden that grows heavier with each passing moment, a deep, aching sadness that seems to permeate every aspect of their existence. They are caught in a web of confusion, struggling to make sense of emotions that feel too big for their heart to contain. In the quiet moments, when the world around them falls still, they are confronted with a truth they can no longer deny. There is a void in their life, an emptiness that your absence has carved out with surgical precision. This hollow space where you once resided has become impossible to ignore, a constant reminder of what they have lost. Day by day, hour by hour, they are beginning to understand the magnitude of what your presence once meant to their very soul. When you were there, when you were part of their daily reality, they experienced something they had never quite known before, a sense of completeness that seemed to emanate from the very core of their being. Your presence brought them joy that felt effortless, natural, as if happiness was simply the default state when you were near. There was an emotional satisfaction in those moments, a feeling of being truly seen and understood that they now realize they may never find again with another soul. You brought them a kind of peace that transcended the ordinary chaos of life. It was the kind of tranquility that settles deep in one's bones, the kind that makes everything else fade into the background. In your company, they found a version of happiness they didn't know they were searching for, pure, uncomplicated, and deeply nourishing. They lived in those moments without fully comprehending their preciousness, without understanding that such connections are rare gifts that should be treasured above all else. But now, in this deafening silence, in the stark reality of your absence, they are forced to confront the painful truth of their own actions. They are beginning to see themselves clearly for perhaps the first time, and the reflection is not easy to bear. They understand now that their indecisiveness was like a slow poison seeping into the foundation of what you shared. Their inconsistency became a source of confusion and pain, creating an atmosphere where you never knew which version of them would show up from one day to the next. The emotional push and pull they subjected you to was relentless and exhausting. One moment they would draw you close, making you feel cherished and valued, and the next they would retreat, leaving you wondering what you had done wrong. This pattern of approach and withdrawal became a dance of emotional manipulation, whether conscious or not, that slowly eroded your trust and faith in the connection. Their behavior planted seeds of doubt in your mind about your own worth. You began to question whether you were asking for too much, whether your needs were unreasonable, whether perhaps you were simply too much for them to handle. These doubts grew like weeds in a garden, choking out the beautiful flowers of self-love and confidence that had once bloomed so naturally within you. Eventually, you reached a breaking point that every heart knows, that moment when hope finally breaks under the weight of disappointment. You stopped trying with the same fervor that had once defined your love for them. You stopped waiting by the phone, stopped checking for messages, stopped making excuses for their behavior. The endless cycle of expectation and letdown had finally worn you down to a place of emotional exhaustion that felt like a kind of death. You had given so generously of yourself, pouring your love into them like water into a vessel with cracks in the bottom. Everything you offered seemed to leak away, leaving you feeling empty and unappreciated. The mixed signals became a constant source of anxiety, never knowing which response would greet your expressions of love. Half-hearted efforts replaced the full presence you deserved, and broken promises became so common they lost their power to surprise or disappoint. Now they see the devastating clarity of cause and effect. They understand that it was their own behavior, their own choices, their own emotional cowardice that led to this suffocating silence between you. The realization is hitting them with the force of a revelation, shaking them to their core. They are finally seeing you not as the soft, open-hearted person they once took for granted, but as someone who has been forced to build walls for protection. They recognize that you have become guarded and defensive, not because your love has died, but because you loved too deeply for too long without receiving the same devotion in return. Your apparent coldness is not indifference, it is self-preservation. Your distance is not cruelty, it is wisdom born from pain. You have learned to protect your heart because no one else seemed willing to do so. From their perspective, they can see the shield you have constructed around yourself, and they know with painful certainty that they are the ones who forced you to forge it. Their ego, their deceptive tendencies, their inability to be fully honest created this impenetrable barrier between your hearts. They see now how their fear of vulnerability led them to create the very distance they now desperately want to bridge. Despite the walls you have built, despite your current defensiveness, their fear of losing you completely is growing stronger with each passing day. It is a fear that wakes them in the middle of the night, that follows them through their daily routines, that colors every interaction with the knowledge that something precious is slipping away. They know that the window of opportunity to make things right is slowly closing, and the urgency of this realization is both motivating and terrifying. They find themselves constantly strategizing, trying to figure out the perfect approach that might soften your heart without making the situation worse. They know that the same vague words and hollow gestures that marked their past behavior will not be sufficient now. The stakes are too high, the damage too extensive for superficial apologies to make any meaningful difference. This time, they understand that nothing short of complete honesty will suffice. They need to be transparent about their failures, their fears, their growth. They need to approach you with a sincerity they may never have shown before, laying their soul bare in a way that terrifies and humbles them. They are carefully planning their next move, weighing every word, considering every possible response, because they know they may only get one chance to reach you. But there is hesitation, a paralyzing uncertainty that keeps them frozen in indecision. They can feel your emotional resistance like a physical barrier, sensing that any premature attempt at reconciliation might explode into conflict or, worse still, complete rejection. They know you are still carrying hurt, still processing the pain they caused, still deciding whether they deserve another opportunity to be part of your life. Your anger is justified, and they know it. Your upset is earned through their actions, and they understand that they have no right to ask you to simply move past it. They feel that unless they are truly prepared to take full accountability for every mistake, unless they are genuinely ready to demonstrate lasting change through their actions rather than their words, there is no point in reaching out at all. You don't want more empty apologies, you have heard enough of those to last a lifetime. What you want, what you deserve, is consistency. You want honesty that doesn't waver when times get difficult. You want a real commitment to healing what has been broken, a dedication to building something stronger than what existed before. You want proof, not promises, and they are finally beginning to understand the difference. This period of physical and emotional separation is weighing on them more heavily than they ever imagined possible. The irony is not lost on them that this very space, this distance they helped create, is causing them to become more emotionally attached than they ever were when you were readily available. The silence has become thunderously loud, forcing them to confront emotions they had been skillfully avoiding. They find themselves replaying memories like favorite songs, revisiting old conversations with new eyes, wondering at what exact moment everything began to unravel. There is a longing that has taken up residence in their chest, a constant ache that reminds them of your absence. You have become a persistent presence in their thoughts, occupying their mind during the busiest moments and the quietest hours alike. The thought of you has evolved into something approaching obsession. While they may appear calm or indifferent to the outside world, internally they are struggling with an intensity that surprises even them. They have learned to wear a mask of composure, but beneath it lies a storm of regret, love, and desperate hope. Don't be misled by their apparent silence or seeming indifference. Just because they haven't reached out, just because they haven't found the words to express everything they feel, doesn't mean they don't care. In fact, they are overwhelmed by the sheer magnitude of how much they do care. The depth of their feelings has caught them off guard, revealing emotions they didn't know they were capable of experiencing. There are days when the weight of missing you brings them to tears, tears of frustration at their own past blindness, tears of grief for what they lost through their own actions, tears of hope that somehow, someway, there might still be a chance for redemption. They are mourning not only the beautiful connection you once shared but also their own inability to recognize its value when it mattered most. They are learning, perhaps for the first time in their life, that love is not about maintaining pride or exercising power or staying in control. Real love requires vulnerability that feels like standing naked in a storm. It demands honesty that can be terrifying in its completeness. It asks for consistency when consistency feels impossible, for showing up even when showing up feels like the hardest thing in the world. For the first time in a long while, they are beginning to understand the true weight of taking someone's love for granted. They see now that your love was not an endless well they could draw from without consideration. It was a precious gift that required care, attention, and reciprocation to flourish. They understand now that love, even the strongest love, can be damaged beyond repair if it is not handled with the reverence it deserves. The fear of losing you completely is serving as a catalyst for reflection and growth they never thought themselves capable of. They are being forced to examine their patterns, their fears, their unconscious behaviors that sabotaged something beautiful. They are learning to figure out how to show up differently, how to be the person you always believed they could become. Whether or not you choose to give them another opportunity is entirely your decision, and they are finally mature enough to respect that boundary. They cannot demand forgiveness or insist on reconciliation. All they can do is work on becoming worthy of a second chance, should you decide to offer one. Know that behind their quiet exterior, behind whatever mask they wear to face the world, there is someone who is finally beginning to see the true value of what they lost. There is someone who is hoping, with every fiber of their being, for the chance to make things right. There is someone who is learning, slowly and painfully, how to love with the depth and consistency that you always deserved. My heart carries a heaviness that feels almost unbearable at times. It is sore from everything I have endured, everything I have carried, everything I have lived through in the journey to become who I am today. The weight of experiences, both painful and transformative, has left me exhausted on levels I didn't know existed, mentally, emotionally, and physically. There were moments when I questioned whether I had the strength to continue, when the pain felt so overwhelming that each breath was an act of courage. But even in those darkest moments, when hope seemed like a luxury I couldn't afford, I never let go of the belief that change was possible. I held on to the conviction that I could transform, that growth was not only possible but inevitable if I was willing to do the work. The truth that I want you to know, that I need you to understand, is that I am changing. The transformation is real and ongoing, unfolding step by careful step. This process of change has been far from easy. It has required me to confront aspects of myself that I had spent years avoiding, to face truths about my behavior and its impact that were difficult to accept. But despite the challenge, despite the discomfort of growth, I know with absolute certainty that this path is right. One thing remains unshakable in my heart: no matter how difficult this journey becomes, I am not giving up on you. I am not giving up on us. Lately, it feels as though I am finally emerging from a prolonged period of darkness, like someone who has been stumbling through a thick fog and is only now beginning to see the landscape clearly. The clarity that is coming is both a blessing and a burden. It brings comfort because I feel more connected to truth, more aligned with my authentic self, more aware of what truly matters in life. But it also brings pain because with this new vision comes the ability to see clearly all the mistakes I made, especially in how I treated you. There was a part of me, deep in the recesses of my consciousness, that always knew I wasn't treating you with the love and respect you deserved. Those quiet moments of knowing were like whispers I chose to ignore because facing them would have required a courage I didn't yet possess. I pushed those feelings away, buried them beneath excuses and justifications, because I wasn't strong enough to confront the truth of my own shortcomings. But now I can see that I needed to walk through every experience, every mistake, every moment of pain and confusion. Not because those experiences justify how I acted toward you, but because they were the teachers I needed to finally understand what real love requires. The lessons were harsh, but they were necessary for my evolution. There is still much that doesn't make complete sense in my mind. The complexity of growth, of change, of understanding the depths of my own heart can be overwhelming. I feel as though I am standing at the edge of something completely new and unfamiliar. While this unknown territory brings excitement about the possibilities ahead, it also brings a terror I have never known before. Change has always been my greatest fear. For so long, I clung to what was familiar, even when those familiar patterns were causing me pain. I held on to people, situations, and behaviors that felt safe simply because they were known quantities. I was so afraid of the unknown that I chose the pain I understood over the healing I had never experienced. But I have come to realize that clinging to what no longer serves me was the very thing holding me back from the life I was meant to live. Deep in my soul, I knew that I needed to let go, to walk away from certain situations and even from people I cared about, because they were preventing my growth. It was one of the most difficult realizations I have ever faced. One of the hardest decisions I had to make was stepping back from you. I need you to understand that I didn't stop communicating with you because my love diminished. The opposite is true. I walked away because I love you so deeply that I couldn't continue showing up in your life half-heartedly. I couldn't keep pretending that everything was fine when I knew in my heart that it wasn't. I needed time to process everything, to sit with uncomfortable truths instead of running from them, to begin planning a way forward that would allow me to return to you, if you'll have me, with an open heart and a clear mind. I wanted to be able to come back to you as someone transformed, someone worthy of the love you had so freely given. The time without you has been one of the most challenging periods of my life. Every single day, I feel your absence like a physical ache. I miss your presence, the sound of your voice, the way your laugh could light up even my darkest moments. I miss the comfort you brought me simply by existing in my world. But I also know that returning to your life before I was truly ready would have only created more pain for both of us. I didn't want to come back with more apologies and empty promises. I wanted to be able to look directly into your eyes and say with complete honesty that I have done the inner work, that I am ready now to love you the way you have always deserved to be loved. I want to show you through my actions, not just my words, that I have grown, that I have learned, that I am becoming the person you always saw in me, even when I couldn't see it in myself. I know now, with a certainty that resonates in my very soul, that we belong together. This knowing is not based on hope or wishful thinking, it is a truth I feel in every quiet moment, in every breath I take, in every beat of my heart. There is something unshakable about my love for you. It is authentic, profound, and unwavering. I believe with every fiber of my being that we are destined to share something extraordinary together. I can envision us building a life that is full of understanding, patience, laughter, and above all, a love that is real and lasting. Not the fairy tale version of love that exists only in stories, but something even more powerful, a love that grows stronger through adversity, that deepens through honesty and accountability, that becomes more beautiful through the courage to face truth together. So here I am, standing before you imperfect but willing, flawed but honest. I am not the same person I was when I caused you pain, and I understand that words alone will never be enough to heal what was broken. I am prepared to show you through my actions, through my consistency, through every choice I make from this moment forward, that you deserve the very best version of me. I am committed to becoming that person, for you, for us, and for myself. Please believe me when I say that my love for you has never faded. If anything, it has become clearer, stronger, and more certain through this time of separation and growth. I am not here to rewrite our past, we cannot change what has already been. But I am here with the hope of building a better future, one that honors the lessons of our journey and embraces the love that has always existed between us. I am ready, truly and completely ready, to walk forward with you. My heart is open, my mind is clear, and my soul is aligned with the truth of who I am becoming. If you will have me, if you will trust me with your precious heart once more, I promise to treasure it as the sacred gift it has always been.